Here's a few engines that are not steam engines, but the auto engine, a kerosene engine, but I'm interested in this one because it's a hot air engine. About 1870, made by Roper. And the whole thing is only 3 horsepower, as big as it is, as tall as a man. This is the Watt rotative steam engine, and it really goes back. A lot of wooden parts, brick parts, and supports. And it's vertical. It's a beam. And that uses Watt parallel motion, which isn't very visible from here. I haven't really talked ever about Henry Maudslay, but he is given credit for basically inventing a lathe as we know it now, that could cut gears, or not cut gears, but make many parts with a bed and a tail stock and a head stock, and what we know on lathes that are still being used today. And this is a Maudslay production lathe. Could make precise lead screws. It's hidden by a sign here. I can't get a real good view of it. There's James Watt and Matthew Bolton. This will be hard to videotape because it's so large, but this is the generator out of the Highland Park plant, and that is where they made Model Ts. But if I can step back a little bit, the flywheels look like they're 20 feet in diameter. And I'm going to go up on the platform and take a look at this, but this thing is absolutely massive. That's the generator part of it. You can see the brushes or slip rings, I can't tell, I think they're brushes. And here's one of the control panels. Now let's walk around it to get just a little idea of how really big this thing is. Here's a connecting rod. Not really sure, but I think that's the generator to excite the fields. And we got all kinds of steam pipes here. Now let's go up. To be honest with you, this thing is so big that there are some things here I don't understand without studying it. Here's the valves for the steam. That's one big piston rod. These are all kinds of lubricators. And then another control panel here with meters. And there's the flywheel that I was looking at a little while ago. Almost up to the ceiling. Another view of the commutator. This provided the power to make a lot of Model Ts. This is the builder's plate for the same engine. And it says the same thing, or virtually the same thing, on the other end of the engine over here. I do not have time to even discuss some of these other generators and engines. There's several display cases here with model engines. Makes me want to leave the museum right now and go home and get started. And some of these models are very, very old. You know, Henry was a picker. Did I say that already? And he had many more pickers that went around the world and found neat stuff for him. That's a beautiful engine. That's a 4-column beam engine from 1931. Compound marine engine. Look at the intricacy. This is before television, when men did great things. And over here, a beam engine from about 1860. And in the next display case, this one, that's a missing display. This is called a model table engine from 1880. Unknown builder, long forgotten, long dead. And on the other side, a model horizontal engine. A 4-column beam engine with a wooden plinth. That's a nice engine. A model of a reversible horizontal engine from England. You know, the British men were great model builders. Cycloidal engine, 1805. Thomas Horn engine, 1850. Also a beam engine. Here's an engine made in London. Also a beam type engine. Notice they used wedges to take up the wear in the bearings. That was pretty common. And it's even got a brass whistle. Maybe that's not a whistle. There certainly were a lot of beam type engines used years ago. And here's a description of it from 1821. Again, from England. When I showed you those models of steam engines, the small ones, just a few minutes ago, you notice how clean they were. And in this department, and this is public for me to look at here, it's the conservators. And this is where they take all of these artifacts and regularly, I suppose according to a schedule, clean them, restore things, and so on. I'm not sure what that girl is doing, but it almost looks like a teletype or something that she's polishing there. But there's all kinds of equipment in here to clean and preserve. And there's other radio equipment where she's working there. This is a McNaught compound engine. Look at the columns, the cast iron columns with flutes and tapered, beautifully made. And the cylinders lagged with wood, and that really, I believe, was insulation. Cast iron plinth, perhaps 15 feet long, and then mounted on stone. There's the beam, way up top side. There's some kind of meter up there. And of course, with all compounds, one cylinder is much bigger than the other. There was a great attention to detail and making things pretty as well as functional. There's the flywheel. or rather the fly ball governor is what I wanted to say here. There would have been a belt right here running over to the main shaft, and there's double eccentrics. And following this shaft, which is at least 6 inches in diameter, through the brick wall, there's also an exhibit called Heroes of the Sky, which I will attempt to show briefly here. Got a DC-3 tail dragger flying overhead. We call this a 1926 Ford Flivver Model T of the Sky. We have here the famous Ford Tri-Motor, made of corrugated aluminum. Imagine flying coast to coast on this thing. Radial engines. If I remember right, this Bill Stout here had a lot to do with this plane. Also called the Tin Goose. Getting off the subject of engines here, but here's a 1927 Boeing B-2. Some beautiful radial engines, and here is a straight engine, if I can see what this is. I believe a Liberty engine, which was water cooled, and then I think this is a Wright, a Wasp, which I believe is a Wright, but I don't see the label on it. Another view of the Tri-Motor. And as I finish up here, they're about to close the museum here in 15 minutes. We got the Wright brothers. I forgot whether that's Orville or Wilbur. At Kitty Hawk. Here's the famous Igor Sikorsky, and one of the first helicopters ever. This is a 1923 Fokker F7 Tri-Motor. There's a big pair of water skis. No, those are the skis for this Ford Tri-Motor. I finally found a picture of Edsel, and there it is. And I asked the guards, you know, and there's very little said about Edsel. He died young. He was responsible for Lincoln Division for quite a while. Died of milk fever.